Hello everybody, here we are today continuing on with our CFL recaps today covering the 2023 Montreal Alouettes. Before we get started with that though, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So 2022 saw the Montreal Alouettes go 9-9 and win their first playoff game since 2014, but there were a lot of changes made in the offseason, and this was a team that just had a lot of questions going into the year. They ended up bringing in Jason Moss and Cody Fajardo from Saskatchewan, and this was not a team that was predicted to do well. I had them going 5-13, which now looks really embarrassing, but I had a lot of questions about this side, and I still think after the whole season transpired, I still had more questions about this team as they were just all over the place. So they start off the year 2-0. You're feeling really good about that. Then they lose 3 in a row. Then they win 4 in a row. Then they lose 4 in a row. Then they win 5 in a row to close out the year. It was just a very up and down year where they were a very streaky team. But the beautiful thing about it was while they were very inconsistent, they were able to finish out the year strong. 11 wins. That was their first double-digit win season since, I believe, 2012. And actually, first 11-win season, I should say, in just a year where while they were up and down, you knew they were probably going to be the second seed in the division. They weren't going to be able to catch up with the Toronto Argonauts, but it didn't matter because you knew they were going to get an opportunity to play for the Grey Cup, and that's exactly what they did. I think this was highlighted by some guys that were brought in and made massive impacts on this team. Looking at some individuals like Austin Mack, I had huge questions about this receiving core going into the season, which was especially why I was concerned. Montreal, with Fajardo being brought in there after just having kind of a rough year with the Riders where he was, on his back a lot, and joining a team that had more receivers that you weren't really sure about, having a guy like Mack come on in and be the guy that moved the chains for them was just incredible. A really good year as now he's off to the NFL, which is unfortunate, but I'm happy for him. Then some other pieces as well, looking at Sean Lemon. He was brought in July. Big piece, big acquisition that was brought in and able to bring a lot of pressure up front and help their defense out. Then another guy like Darnell Sankey, he was brought over from the XFL. Sankey set a defensive tackle record for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in a season back in 2022, maybe it was 23. Can't remember, he was off in the XFL for a bit, but either way, he comes in and again makes this defense that much more impressive as they just looked like a side that was on a mission to get things done. And these three players aren't the sole guys that were able to get the job done. They had some injuries at running back. They had just a lot of things that every team deals with, but not everybody is able to deal with it, if that makes sense. And I am just amazed because you lose a guy like Geno Lewis who goes over to Edmonton and Mac just slides on in his way and is able to make that impact. And this is a team that was hot going into the playoffs. Wondering if it was going to end early, but it didn't, as they beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats, a team that they had played just a season prior and picked up a playoff win, beat them 27-2. It wasn't the most convincing win, but they were able to move on and go to Toronto, which was a huge test for this team. But guess what? They get the job done. They put on a show, as Noel Thorpe is able to say as a defensive coordinator. Just about everything went right for this team. They took on a 16-2 Toronto side that looked like they very well could be the greatest team in CFL history, potentially. And they have 10 turnovers, 2 defensive touchdowns, and book their first trip to the Grey Cup since 2010, where they get to play the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Winnipeg had beat them multiple times in the season, beat them pretty bad, I think on 2 occasions. They go in there, they go toe-to-toe. They have some moments where, guess what? Winnipeg does look like the better team. But when it comes down to it, they're able to get the job done, and they beat the Blue Bombers, a team that had been in its 4th straight Grey Cup, and claimed their first Grey Cup victory since 2010. Now, at the end of the day, will this go down as one of the greatest teams to ever be in the CFL's history? No. Again, they were streaky, they were a flawed roster, but guess what? Were they not fun? Were they not enjoyable to say, well, they're underdogs, they probably shouldn't be here, they probably should have been out when they kept losing games, they had some ugly wins? Yeah. But oh my gosh, I think going back to this in the future and talking to your kids or just whoever and getting to discuss the 2023 Montreal side is going to be fun. Could they end up, regressing a bit in 2024? Maybe they could, but this 2023 side, while it kept getting knocked down, was able to get back up, didn't care about playing a team in Toronto that could have been the team of CFL history, and then played again a team in Winnipeg that could have won their third championship and claimed the dynasty. Didn't care about that either. And at the beginning of the year, the season started with so much pessimism, especially from people like me, where I was very concerned. But the fan base, they have to feel so rewarded about how this all panned out. And that's the story of the 2023 Montreal Alouettes. What are your thoughts on this team? Let me know all that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.